Okay, now I would like to invite you guys all back and like to take some time to just reorient yourselves, and we're going to start the presentation. And so firstly, I'm going to show you guys a short video that gives like a very like general definition for mindfulness, and then we'll like break it down from there.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. So I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
Okay, so now we're going to look at a more complex definition of mindfulness, and we're going to split it into 4 parts, and I'm going to try to like break it down a little bit. So the first part of the definition is mindfulness is a series of practices we can use to change our relationship to our thoughts and emotions. So mindfulness practices don't really they're not meant to like change the content of our thoughts. So we're not trying to get rid of the feeling of like the porcupine was feeling like pissed. We're trying to change our relationship to this thought and like figure out like how can we react differently to this thought. And so this leads into the second part of our definition. So mindfulness is a way of recognizing that we're not the same as our emotions. And so for the most part, our like base emotions last around 90 seconds. What happens a lot of the time is that we get caught up in our emotions and can act in ways that like extend these thoughts and emotions to make them like longer and like feel as though they're taking control of us. And like the outburst that the porcupine had, like he let himself get angry, like act on that anger and kind of like extended it. And so mindfulness helps us recognize the difference between like who we are as a person and the emotions we feel. And it's trying to help us to recognize that like our emotions don't control us, and the emotions that we might have at one point aren't necessarily how we can think of ourselves as a whole. And thirdly, so mindfulness is putting into practice the belief that we can choose how we want to respond to our emotions. And so when we practice mindfulness, we can take the time to check in with our bodies and notice how our emotions are coming up for us in our bodies. So with the porcupine, it was the elevated heartbeat, his ears getting red, or his face getting flushed. And when we listen to our bodies and recognize our emotions, so like when we take the time to think, okay, I can tell that I'm getting angry, what's happening in my body, okay, my hands are a little sweaty, like I feel like I want to punch something, or I want to be like get like yell at a person because like maybe they cut me off. We can take the time to choose how we would actually like to act, how we would want to act, to like maybe give a good example to our kids who might be in the back seat of the car, or that we want to show that there are different ways to be angry and that we don't need to just yell to be angry and to show that we're angry. And the last part of the definition, mindfulness is a practice that helps us stay in the present, and it helps us train to sit with uncomfortable feelings and not lose ourselves in our thoughts about the past or the future. So mindfulness doesn't like get rid of our emotions. We'll still have these urges to respond, but what it does help us do is ground ourselves in the present and to like make a commitment to stay present even when we might want to feel our emotions and let ourselves get carried away with our emotions. Mindfulness isn't saying that like our emotions are bad or like putting any judgment on our emotions. It's just saying that emotions are like that they are a thing, but that we can choose how we want to react to them. And so we'll get into this a little bit more in our next slide. And so here we'll go into a little bit about why mindfulness is important. So again, here it says, so mindfulness helps us not to get caught up in our emotions and also not to get lost in thoughts about the past or the future. So what does that mean? So we don't know when to expect our emotions to come. Like we're human, like things are happening all the time that are out of our control. And I think that a lot of the times mindfulness can get tricky because we're more likely to practice it when we're feeling good. So sometimes we don't notice that like, okay, like we notice like some thoughts, we notice that like, okay, like this is happening in the background, but like they're not the emotions that are more likely to get us to like act like automatically. And so mindfulness can be most helpful at the moments when we don't want to practice it, on the moments when we want to like let our emotions carry us away because like we're extremely upset, we feel like it's like too much to handle, we feel overwhelmed. And these are the times when our thoughts about like the past or worries about the future get very like strong and very like enticing to kind of like follow. So mindfulness helps us just like notice all this stuff that's happening and to just like help us recognize that we can choose how to react to them. And so right now I'm gonna like slow down and like practice this myself. So I'm gonna notice that what's happening in my body. So right now I'm a little anxious. Like, I mean, presenting isn't my favorite thing to do, and I know that like my heartbeat is like a little faster right now. Like I'm sweating a little bit. I'm definitely speaking probably faster than I should be speaking. And since I notice this, and then I can say, okay, I'm gonna slow down a bit. I'm gonna notice that, yes, I'm anxious, but I also wanna be present here with you guys, and that I wanna be as helpful as I can. And I can only do that if I let my emotion just be an emotion and not get carried away with it. And at the same time, I'm also noticing like thoughts about like the past. Like I'm getting memories about like that I had to do this presentation like a few hours ago, and I don't know how, like sometimes I'm just never sure how things go, and then that's kind of like, you know, building in my head and like making me question myself. And then I'm just anxious generally about the future. And so even though like I know that I'm having these thoughts, I'm choosing like not to follow them. Like I'm choosing to be here with you guys and to be present. And so so I'm gonna get into a little bit about how mindfulness can help us target these thoughts. But first, we're gonna explore a little bit about like how trauma can shape our reactions to different stimuli. So how trauma can be something that elevates like what we're feeling in our bodies. So the emotion, like the, the definition for trauma that we're using here is a deep emotional wound that can be caused by an experience, a set of experiences, or a continuous experience of harm. And by a continuous experience of harm, I mean like experiencing something like several times over the years, like throughout your childhood, or like even like as an adolescent or an adult. And some of the things I wanted to highlight, especially when we think of like serving the people we want to serve through like a trauma-informed lens, is that trauma is experienced differently by every individual. So something that might be traumatic for one person may not be traumatic for someone else. So even like a car crash, someone might have like PTSD symptoms. They might like have like flashbacks to the moment, while someone else might just have like maybe physical scars, but not really be phased like emotionally. And the second thing is that trauma is personal and can shape how we respond to future threats differently. So our body takes in all this input from like what happened to us and like wants to try to avoid re-traumatizing ourselves. So we're going to learn responses that are going to help us cope with any like stimuli. So like that might come to us. So like with the car example, like if we might get nervous about being in a car, we might just avoid cars for a while because we're nervous about it. And so our body like learns these new habits, but sometimes these habits can get in the way of other stuff. So like if we get like afraid of using our cars, it might be hard to like get to work, or it might be hard to like get things done that we want to get done. So we just want to be mindful that people have different experiences of trauma, and like we never know what those experiences are until they let us know. And whenever we approach them like at a school or like at a like mental health like clinic, we need to recognize that like and like things we can do might be traumatizing for them without us knowing, and mindfulness can be a good way for us to respond to that. So here are just some like applications of mindfulness in general that I thought could be useful and like more practical for us to see how these can work. So for like a parent, practicing mindfulness can help you like take a step back in moments when you feel like very frustrated with your kid. Like, I mean, they might have just like had like a temper tantrum, or they might have like ruined some plan for the day or something. But like it can help sometimes to take the step back, like recognize, okay, I'm angry, like maybe I'm justified, but like what I really want to do is show my kids that I'm upset, but I don't have to yell at them to show that. I can like be calm and like still address what the problem was, but without letting my emotions either make me withdraw emotionally or like get carried away by my emotions. And even for like personal stress, I think mindfulness many times can be best used just whenever, like, I mean, right now, like I'm doing this presentation, like before doing this, like I kind of took a little bit of time to like center myself and recognize, okay, like, yes, I have a lot of thoughts. Yes, I have like a lot of emotions right now, but I can't really control like how things are going to go, and that's okay. And so, so when we include this within like a more like trauma informed care kind of lens, and like whenever we're addressing like students or we're talking to like clients, patients, like, or even like any person that we might come into contact to, mindfulness can help us approach these people in a way that is caring and that can not threaten to like re-traumatize them. So one of the things to think about when we're doing mindfulness is that, or that like mindfulness in some ways already assumes, is that we don't know what other people have experienced, like kind of what I talked about before. And like using mindfulness, like to start a conversation or to start like a session or like a class or anything like that, like it can help us get our clients or students, anyone in a space that can help them ground themselves and be present to process like whatever emotions they might have been feeling right before that, whether like something happened in the classroom, like, I mean, maybe someone was bullied, maybe someone like just got out of a car crash, like helps them sit with this emotion, like recognize, okay, yes, I'm feeling all this stuff. It's very, like, it can be very difficult stuff to sit with, but it also helps us recognize, okay, like I'm also somewhere else now. I'm in the present. I'm with people who I'm safe with and stuff like that. And so, and also another thing to think about is that we don't really want to like start a conversation with someone that might be triggering for them and just like let them out into the world. So like even like in a classroom, if we're talking about something that potentially might like be something, I mean, like talking about like divorce, and like a kid might have had an experience of divorce, or like when we're talking to a mental health client and like we're going over some of the traumatic stuff in their past, like it's good to notice what the individual is experiencing, what like you can even visibly notice is happening in the person's body, and help them like work through this. And through mindfulness, like practice with them, give them some time to just be with you and be present with you. And that can be very helpful to like help regulate some of these emotions that are coming up. Like they'll definitely still have like, I mean, be like a little bit upset, but it won't be to the degree that if you just kind of like let them like go. And just like a note on this, some forms of trauma and like some individuals who might have like a harder time handling like their emotions, it can be very, very stressful to do this. So sometimes it might be very hard for individuals to separate themselves from their emotions, and giving them like this silence, this like kind of like space can be very upsetting, and it can elevate some of their feelings because they're very conscious of like their body and like, okay, their heart is racing like so quickly. So like that makes it them more nervous. So that's always something to consider and always something to think about, especially when we know the person. And like, I mean, even when we don't know the person, like observing them and recognizing like, okay, this person seems like there's something happening that they're very upset, like it might not be, mindfulness might not be the best option for that particular instant. And so right now, I want to invite you guys to practice with me. So we're gonna select an anchor. So the anchor we're gonna use is our hand, and we're just gonna like trace our hand and notice like what it feels like to trace our hand. And usually when we're choosing an anchor, like an anchor can literally be anything, but we want to make sure that it's not something that can be traumatizing for a person. So maybe if someone had like a car accident, we don't want to think like want them to focus on an area of their body that might have been affected by the car crash. And so in the practice we're doing today, again, yeah, we're just gonna like trace our hands like this, and we're gonna concentrate on what it feels like to trace our hands. And we're going to notice that as we do this, our mind is going to invite us to have like different thoughts. So we're going to think, okay, like I'm hungry, or like I'm getting really sleepy, like it's Friday, like, and we're just going to notice these thoughts, and then and if we can, like come back to the activity and come back to thinking about your fingers. And another thing I would like to encourage you is not to judge yourself, because this, like our minds naturally, they're supposed to like give us all these thoughts. So like, it's not a bad thing to have thoughts. It's not a good thing to be perfect at what you're doing. Like what we're aiming for is just noticing our thoughts and coming back to our anchor. And so we're going to practice this for maybe 5 minutes. So if you're willing, you can close your eyes, relax your back, like sit straight, put your feet on the floor, and we'll do this for about 5 minutes. And I'll let you guys know when we're done. Okay, now I want to invite you to slowly come back and to get re-engaged with like what's happening around you, like what your like surroundings are. And we're gonna quickly like just review what we just did. And so although there isn't like a right way to do mindfulness, there's certain like things that can help us notice like if we're like what's happening. So one of the things to reflect on is whether or not we were like able to come back to the anchor when we had thoughts. So like I had like a lot of thoughts. I'm very anxious right now. So like I noticed that my mind was like all over the place, but I was still able to once in a while like come back to my fingers. And like I definitely didn't do like, I mean, I struggled a lot this time. I had a lot of like thoughts all the time that were like, I would focus a little bit on my hand and then right away I was like kind of like thinking about stuff. But the point is that even though we had all these thoughts, even though like our minds were like all over the place, even if for like the briefest moment we were able to come back to our like anchor, that's like a success. And then we have to also, we can also consider how judgmental we were about our thoughts. So I did like judge some of my thoughts. I was like, okay, like I know I'm anxious, but I need to get back to this thing. I need to like be like a good presenter and kind of like do it right. But I mean, there is no right, and like, and it's just for myself. So it's not like I'm not trying to prove it to anyone. So like I need to remember like, okay, these are just thoughts. I can leave them aside and put them aside for now and focus on what I need to do. And there's other ways that we can be mindful. So some grounding practices are very good, like because they're very like small acts that you can do, like just like at your desk or anything like that. So like pushing down on your desk or pushing down onto the floor are helpful ways to just like help us remember that we're here and that we're present in the moment. There are also ways to like engage your five senses. So just like taking the time to like listen to what's happening around you. Like, do you hear like a dog's barking or like the cars around you? And then like observing like if there's any smells that you can feel. So like it can go down like through your senses. So like sight, like what you hear, what you taste, what you smell, and what you feel. And those, it can be very grounding to do that. It's like if you're even taking like a walk or if you're sitting down or even if you're like eating and just like mindfully taking the time to like experience what you're eating. Journaling can also be a good way to be mindful, like jotting down like how you're feeling, jotting down like the thoughts that are coming up in your head. And even doodling can be a good way to be mindful, just like taking your mind off your thoughts and letting yourself just like express yourself through like lines and like pictures. Making slime or like anything you can fidget with, that's can be very mindful and very grounding. I know that it helps me concentrate on things better. Coloring books too can be very mindful, like just like focusing on like the colors, like what it feels like to have your like coloring pencils on like the book and not having like to really think about anything. And yoga too can be very mindful. And I think, yeah, so we're gonna watch a video that's a guided meditation, and it's like a mindful meditation, and it helps us think about like that meditation doesn't have to be just about like clearing our minds or relaxing, but that there are different ways to do meditation. And I will start the video, and it's a pretty long video. So if you guys want to like just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and we'll follow the instructions that the video tells us to do.
Mindfulness meditation. There are many different ways to practice mindfulness meditation. Today, we will do just one of those many things. Essentially, mindfulness meditation can be practiced anytime, anywhere, because it is the practice of being mindful of either your breathing, physical sensations, emotions, or even the sights around you. The goal is to just be aware and to notice without judging. And any time a thought enters your mind, to return back to whatever it is you are practicing being mindful of. To begin, sit in a comfortable position, closing your eyes and just breathing softly, slowly. Focusing on your breath, letting yourself be mindful of how it feels when you enter your body. Practice being the observer as you observe the different sensations that happen in your body as the breath enters in and exits out. What sensations do you notice in your nose, in your chest, in your stomach? Anytime your mind wanders, just return to the sensations created by breathing. Now let yourself focus on different sensations occurring throughout your body. Begin by bringing awareness to your hands, being mindful of how they feel, what they are experiencing. Just letting your awareness return back to your hands and the sensations that are in them anytime your mind wanders elsewhere. Now bring awareness to your ears. First, observe any feelings or sensations that you're having. Without judgment, just observing. And now focus on the sounds that are entering in through your ears. Being mindful and present of what is happening in this area of your body. Anytime your thoughts drift elsewhere, just return your awareness to your ears. Any sensations, any sounds. Now bring awareness to the center of your chest in your heart energy center. Just observe any feelings you experience here, whether it's emotional or physical, like the beating of your heart. Let whatever you feel just be. As you simply observe it, there is nothing else you need to do. All you need to do is observe. Now scan your body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, looking for any areas that may be experiencing some kind of sensation. It doesn't matter how extreme or how subtle the sensation is. Whatever you find, just draw your awareness to this area and let it be. You're not trying to change it. You're just acknowledging it. Every time your thoughts drift away, just return to observing. Again, return to being mindful of your breath. Feeling the air. Observing the flow and the rhythm of your breathing pattern. And just become mindful of your thoughts. No need to judge them. Just observe whatever it is that they are. Let them drift in and out as you just simply let them be. Let them enter. Let them exit. Do not try to change them or control them. They just are. And now, slowly begin to bring your awareness to your fingers and to your toes. As you wiggle them slowly, feel any sensations happening here. Just being aware of them. And now roll your shoulders slowly and gently, noticing any sensations here. And when you are ready, slowly bring your awareness back to the room around you.
Thank you guys for doing this with me. And so like the more you practice this, the more you do this like in your day-to-day life, the easier it gets to kind of like notice like your body's like signals before like you react. So like I think a lot of the times the more you do it, the more you automatically like kind of like go through your body, like scan your body and like notice what's happening there. And the more likely you're probably also to practice mindfulness when you know like you're feeling like something. And so now we're going to go into a little bit of suicide prevention and mindfulness. Just some quick facts about suicide. Suicide is the second highest cause of death for youth ages 15 to 34 years old. And some signs for suicidal ideation to watch out for are saying things like, I wish I was dead, or life is just too hard, you'd be better off without me. Or if someone has thoughts to like thought of a plan to end their life, or someone seems like they're isolating themselves, ignoring friends, or acting in ways that might seem uncharacteristic for them, and or if someone feels hopeless or feel unbearable pain that's either emotional or physical. And some like mindfulness when you're working with someone who might feel suicidal, like I mean it's definitely not the only thing we should do. And it's definitely, I mean, we need to contact like either a mental health provider or someone who can walk through the person like at a deeper level. But if you do find yourself talking, like wanting to talk to about, like to a friend about the possibility that they might be having these thoughts, mindfulness can be good to help like calm yourself and be present with them in the moment, to bring yourself the courage to kind of like bring it up. And if the conversation makes your friend or yourself uncomfortable, or if they do have like these thoughts and like it's something that's like bearing on them a lot, like mindfulness can be a way of like being with your friend, like being there for them and helping them like be in the moment with you. And even though they may have these thoughts, it might be helpful to have a moment in time where they can focus on something other than their like feelings of hopelessness or pain. And I mean, this should always be accompanied by like finding someone who can help the person, like a school social worker or a counselor, and if necessary, like calling 911. But even though like mindfulness not feel like you're doing enough, it can be a good way of showing the person you're working with that you care, and that we can just, even if for brief moments, find moments where we can just like focus on things other than our emotions, that like our emotions can be very painful, but that doesn't mean that we are our emotions or that our emotions control us. And oops. And here is just some other like information in case you need to like refer someone to like a hotline in case like they are talking very seriously about a possibility of committing suicide or ending their life. So there's always calling 911. There's also the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which has two numbers now. One of them is the 1-800 number, and then the other one is just 988. And then there are a few other hotlines for like LGBT, which is the Trevor Project. And then there's for like trans identified individuals, Asian Americans, that hotlines that can cater to people whose first language isn't English, and domestic violence and sexual assault crisis hotlines. And this is just like kind of like the basics, but in another presentation, we also kind of talked about more about like what it looks like for suicide, to like for a person to feel like have these thoughts, and like what are ways that we can intervene as standbyers. But for this, we won't get into that in this presentation. But right now, that was pretty much what we have. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask or put them in the chat.
Right, thank you, Andre. I really appreciate your informative lecture. And I hope everyone enjoyed it and found some peaceful and relaxed moment with us. I just want to pause here for a second to see if anyone has any questions or concern for us or for Andre. No. And yeah, also just want to let you guys know that there will be a post-test survey sending out to you by email later. And if you may take 1 to 2 minutes to fill out, that will be awesome. And any feedback will be much appreciated. All right, thanks everyone for coming, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good job, Andre.
Thank you.
I'm going to go prepare for my next session, but you did really well. Here's applause.
Good luck on yours.
See you.
Great job, Andre and Eileen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonah.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
You too.
Thank you, Andre. You did excellent.
Thank you. Thank you for introducing everything and for like taking the time to listen to it again because you've heard it before.
Are you going to the next section?
I'm not sure.
Hey, good job. And then yeah, I already got the one. I already got the recording for the for Faye, and then I download to my computer, and then I'm going to share with. So once we have all three, then we can send it to Sean and see if he can put it on our website. Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome.
All right, I'm going to leave and help Jessica with the other work.
Do you guys need any help with that?
I think we only have one. We only have one person participating.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna pop in for a second and to see if you need anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All
Okay,
right.
have a good weekend. I'll see you
You too.
guys.
Yeah.